So she has very interesting study results that she can share with us. Welcome, Fanny.
So I'm going to try and speak loudly. I also was in drama as a kid, so please let me know if my challenge will be with the chat. So anyway, I'm so happy to be here. I am a nurse by background. So when I retired, I thought I'm too young. Thank you. And I thought, okay, so what can I do? So I started this little business working mostly with lawyers, actually. And then someone said, oh, there's these projects going on. And I thought, as a really bad sleeper, what nurse isn't? I thought, oh, sleep? Interesting. Yeah. I knew nothing about everything that Colleen has just spoken about, and I really wish I had known that before I put the studies on. But anyway, we'll get on to that. So, improving sleep in long-term care. One of the studies that we've just completed is a 6-month study in a long-term care facility with 30 clients. And what we found was actually interesting. Now I have a koala here, and we're in Canada. And I'm like, wow. So I always thought cats slept the longest, right? Of all mammals. Actually, the koala does. He or she sleeps 20 hours in a day. Why? The eucalyptus leaves that they eat have a lot of toxins. Therefore, they need to use all of their energy to cut the toxins out and use the leaves for fuel. So they're active 4 hours a day, at dawn and at dusk. So let's keep that in mind as we're giving our clients medication. All right, like I said, it is the challenge. There we go. No. Ha! I should have had a lesson on this. So we also assume that sleep happens in a circular motion, like sleep and then sleep. But we know that doesn't happen. We go up and down, up and down, up and down. And as Colleen said, we can spend time in bed. And different studies have got different time zones. So we used this study that said that adults get about 7 hours. That's what we need. And as Colleen said, the amount of time you spend in bed actually doesn't relate at all to the amount of deep sleep or REM sleep that you get. And those are the two important pieces, like she mentioned, to restore our well-being. There's a lot of writing on every slide, so just ignore it, But there is, when we did the study for 6 months, we found that there were 6 things, which is kind of funny. 6 months, 6 things, that affect sleep in long-term care. Restraint use, right? Nutrition, hydration, and elimination. Responsive behaviors, sleep, quality and routine, meaningful engagement and activity, and pain control. Pain control's at the top because we found that was a key. Now, Colleen has explained that with less deep sleep, we experience more pain. Like I said, I wish I had her told before I did the study. All right. And all of these factors, they're not individual. They relate to each other as well as how we sleep. Pain management. A lot of pain especially from our non-verbal clients, is put down to resistive behavior. They're stiff. They're going to fight against you when you try and turn them, right? They're verbal, or they're vocalizing, right? So it's often mistaken for responsive behaviors. And I'm just going to put all of them up here. We had the benefit while we were doing this to actually read the charts. Do you know that not one Y assessment mentioned pain? Not one. Which is kind of sad if you think about it. And because people were verbalizing or resisted, and it was put down to responsive behavior, the number of psychiatric medications went up. So let's look at the number on this unit, this particular unit, the number of psychiatric meds versus the number of sleep meds. There's a little bit of a difference there, which is kind of sad. And we've all been, like, you're all part of the CLEAR initiative, where we're trying to reduce the number of antipsychotics used in long-term care facilities. Yet, post-COVID, what did we see? Right? So the person is getting up in the middle of the night, the person is running, the person is doing this wrong, and psychotic. Antipsychotic medication without a psychiatric condition doesn't work. It knows them. Oh, absolutely. But it doesn't work for what we want. Restraint use. Restraint use has been in death, right? There's a number of coroner's reviews, if you're interested, that will actually talk about limb loss, death, which is a never event, right, in our facilities, unless it's expected. But we heard activity is so important, right? So you're going to take a person from bed, put them in a rota, a little tray, feet up, and that's where they're going to stay all day. So what does that actually do for the person? How does that actually help them build that balloon? I don't think it does. So the other thing is antipsychotics are a chemical restraint. Right? We all know. As healthcare professionals, we all know. So I'm not just talking about physical restraint here, but chemical restraint as well. And when we pair that with what long-term care facility isn't semi-locked, even if we say that it's not a locked facility, what long-term care isn't semi-locked? So you're restricting their environment, you're restricting their movement, and you're loading them up with a medication that shouldn't be used. Or maybe it needs to be used, but maybe not in the way. Pure antipsychotics do nothing for the body except cortisol. You can tell my bias. So here we go. There's a number of psych meds ordered and the amount of weeks. Notice that the person who gets no psychiatric medication has the most weeks. That was something that I was really curious about. Sleep quality and routine. So this is, again, going back to Colin's message, the amount of time in bed. What we found was that the people that stayed in bed 12, 16, 18, 22 hours, actually their deep sleep, their REM and sleep did not improve. It actually decreased. So that was a really interesting thing for us to see. And what we found was with the reduction of those deep sleep states, there was more responsive behavior, there was less cognitive ability to connect, And one of the things that we found interesting was, we all have to deal with sundowning, right? So we put them to bed early because, they're sundowning. It's a behavioral thing. So we give them the medication, we put them to bed, and then they stay in bed. And it's not that their time in bed increases, but their ability to actually have that deep sleep increases. So the sundowning is even worse the next day because cognitively they cannot put things together. I think these slides are going to be made available to the participants. Is that correct? Yeah. So, we had in the first study that I did, we had a person who had a long psychiatric history and was on a lot of psychiatric meds appropriately. Spent 14 hours a day in bed, a lot of deep sleep. REM sleep, but a lot of deep sleep. Then at the same time, we had a lady who had dementia that was not on any medications. She was sleeping 6 to 7 hours a day. Her husband, who was with her, kept her very busy during the day. And actually, they did a lot of things, and any time that we saw them go out of the facility and do things in the community, her REM sleep went super high. She was able to function on a daily basis with the husband's help, but also without the husband's help. And to see the different effects of the medications on the person who was receiving them appropriately and the person who had dementia but wasn't on any medication, and their ability to have that REM sleep for that cognitive function was absolutely remarkable. Nutrition, hydration, and elimination. So we put people to bed early, then they don't have their snacks, their bedtime snack. They get up at 2 o'clock in the morning when you don't have enough stuff. They're hungry, right? They're going to the fridge. They're wobbly, so you're increasing your risk of falls. There's usually not much in the fridge by that time, right? And they're going back to bed hungry. Well, I don't know about you, but when I'm hungry, I don't sleep, right? So if a nighttime snack is so important, a bedtime snack. And going to bed at 6 p.m. is not a good thing, right? Even for the really early birds, I don't think that's the natural sleep. So making sure that the person is hydrated, making sure the person has had enough to eat during the day, those routines that Colleen was speaking about, those routines for eating, for all that is so important. And also, okay, so nurses are kind of sneaky, right? Just a little, right? We don't actually want to deal with the toileting aspect sometimes. It's just like one more thing to deal with. So we might as well give the laxatives, like, lunchtime. So, because nights doesn't have anything to do. Right? So, how disruptive is that to the person's sleep routine? So just keeping those simple things in mind, right? So with this unit, what we found was that people were going to bed rather early. And then they were getting out really at 3, 4. And there's so much staff around to help them at 3 and 4, right? With their food, with their toileting, making sure they don't fall, all of that stuff. So what we did was we actually helped them move the bedtime so that people were getting up 6, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, which was better staff, better, more light. They could see better. So it was quite interesting. The other thing we found was that you're going to wake up during light sleep. You were talking about rounds, right? With Sleepsense, you can see when a person is in light sleep. Don't go in the room. You can see their breathing. You can see their heart rate. Don't go in the room. You're going to wake them up. Okay? So I thought that was really good. Responsive behaviors. One of the things we hear so much is the rationale why you had to give them antipsychotics is because they were resistant to care. Well, if you're not dealing with pain, they're going to be resistant. If they're not getting enough sleep, or that deep sleep at night, they're not going to be able to process the new information that is coming to them throughout the next day. So they're going to be reactive. So just to keep that in mind, right? Someone said about people coming in and not being familiar with the environment, right? That's another trigger for what we would define as an responsive behavior. They don't know what to expect in their new environment. So you're going to see those supposed responsive behaviors more active as they first come in because they're adjusting. They haven't had time to process. The other thing we do is we go into the patient room and, nurses, we just don't have time. We don't have time in the day to do everything that we want to do with the client, right? So we go in, we rush. And so we're dealing with people with maybe a hearing impediment, a visual impediment, just a little bit of cognitive impairment. Take the time, talk to them, actually have them participate with you as opposed to doing with. Think of a child. If you approach a child and you are trying to do something and you don't give them time to respond to what you're doing, they're going to be resistant. They don't know. They're scared. Same thing with a senior person, emotion, who's there for a reason, right? So this is an interesting person to see. They had a lot of responsive behaviors. So what the team decided was that they weren't on enough antipsychotic medication. So they kept increasing the antipsychotic medication. Well, that's great. That's great. To reach the maximum level of antipsychotics that she was on. And you see, she had a lot of sleep. None of it was deep. And none of it was REM, which would help her react to the next day. And her responsive behaviors did not improve at all. So maybe the answer isn't to increase the energy supply, but to find out, is she in pain? Is she not getting the right types of foods? What is actually there? Meaningful activity and engagement. So this was fascinating. If you gave a person even 1 hour in a day of activity, that night, their REM sleep, rapid eye movement, which is 20% of your total deep sleep, right, supposedly, is increased exponentially. What we found in long-term care in this facility was that most people got 2% of their sleep as REM sleep. But by just doing an hour of activity a day with that person, going out shopping, doing something different, having music therapy, anything, increased it to 12 to 18%. If that was a finding that we did not expect to see. So, what is meaningful activity? Anything that isn't sitting in a chair. We heard about light therapy. Just interacting with people. I love what you were saying about, increasing, as a care team, increasing their activity throughout the day. I think that is so, it's missing in a lot of long-term care facilities. And I applaud you. Thank you. That was so great to hear. Because it improves the overall quality of sleep. So this was to highlight. So some families had a lot of engagement with their family member and took them out, and some people, like most of the clients that we deal with, the family might come and visit maybe once a week, right? So the more you can activate, the more sleep they can get. The more sleep they get, the less responsive behaviors, the less pain, the less everything that we associate as negative. And that is it.
We do take questions right now. So if anyone has any questions or anything to share.
And I know I went through that really fast. I just wanted to get us back a little bit on time. But the study was phenomenal. It really, really increased my knowledge around sleep. But I can see the benefits for every long-term care facility across the country. It wasn't done in BC, by the way, just if you're trying to figure out which long-term care facility that was. It wasn't in BC, so just, yeah, any questions? Yes.
I think one thing about quality initiatives is the sustainability of the project. What has the long-term care has done to make it sustainable for the quality improvement for good quality of sleep? Okay. How do we change the policy for pharmacy?
So, as nurses, we're not prescribers, right? So we can do as much education as possible. We haven't been able to affect changing the prescription. I'm hoping that with more knowledge for physicians and more dedication, especially more knowledge around sleep itself, because sleep, I think, for physicians is still that sort of, there's a lack of understanding and a lack of knowledge around what is best, right? So as far as prescription goes, I would say that there's been no change. as far as getting activities into the program, there has been. So what we did out of this project was actually build some quality initiatives, which didn't exist before. So that was part of my role as well. But this is only about sleep, so we didn't go into that. But one of the main things that we focused on was pain. Because we found that the lack of pain control in long-term care it's mind-blowing. You know, giving someone 1,000 milligrams of Tylenol a day is not going to affect their pain level much. And when you think that, you know, as we age, we're supposed to get less Tylenol, not more Tylenol, and the maximum dose now has gone from 1,000 to 900, we're actually over medicating with Tylenol. And I have arthritis really bad, so I take Tylenol, but I tell you, when it's really bad, Tylenol doesn't touch it, right? So why are we just giving Tylenol? And that's it. Give Tylenol 4 times a day. That should control pain. I challenge that theory, right? So the one that we targeted was pain control. And as we've improved pain management, sleep quality has improved.
I just want to comment that we really appreciate that Sleepsense was chosen to provide evidence. So I guess, as you said, well, another we consider as common knowledge, but then when you have data, when you have evidence, put it on the paper and put it on the table, bring it to everyone, it makes huge difference.
That's right.
So one of the great things now is that there's so much research coming out around sleep. The benefits of sleep and the harms of not getting enough sleep. Things to improve sleep. I loved hearing that that sleep hygiene is for the folks or not using, not an effective thing, because that is the number one thing we hear all the time is, you know, sleep hygiene is bad. Get rid of the TV. Oh, really? Really? You know?
I'm really glad to hear you talk about the activities because that's one of the things that I've been advocating for. Whenever we think in terms of funding, we go, okay, more carries, more nurses and that. And we do, not that we don't need that, but our funding doesn't even cover 7 days a week. We spread people out to try to make it work for 7 days a week. So we don't even have things that we can provide every morning and afternoon. And actually where I work, our foundation fundraises to bring in music therapy. So it's outside of even the funding model, the importance of activities.
So, you know, anyone who's in management has heard of HPPD, right? Hours per patient day. That's how many hours we provide the client with care, hands-on care, right? And so we've got one of our most fragile populations, most complex populations, with the least hours per patient day in the system. You know, anywhere from 2.8, depending on the facility you're at, to 3.4. That, or 3.8 some places. So, I mean, like, seriously? And that's in a 24-hour clock? So where's the time to sit down and talk to the person? Where's the time to play a game? Where's the time to find out their story? Right? I'm a huge advocate of doing those things. I used, as a frontline nurse, I used to take the time whether at the beginning of the shift or at the end of the shift. I used to take the time to do that, with, especially with seniors and children, because it is so vitally important that we know their story, that we engage them in meaningful conversation, in meaningful activity. You know, the farmer who's been farming for 60 plus years, and now we want him to sit in a chair all day. You know, we need to think about these things.